Hi, this is Jim Cramer, co-founder of TheStreet.com. I'm with Cliff Mason, one of our new staff writers at TheStreet.com, for another edition of the Cramer Mason Chronicles. This one, Cliff, with this ring I thee wed, ellipse, for money. This is a piece that's uniquely written, I believe, for younger people. It's first, why don't you just explain your philosophy rather than I put it in the words that I would, perhaps because this one's really scatological.
All right. I wrote this piece. It is about why people should marry for money. And it is, in a nutshell, and it is uniquely targeted for people who are in their 20s, younger people, because, frankly, marrying rich is a young man's or young woman's game. I hate to say it, but, I too am a victim of age, but, as you get older, you become less attractive, and this is a very mercenary position. It's a very self-interested position. The fact of the matter is that marrying rich, regardless of how you feel about it ethically, is a great way to make lots of money very quickly with, frankly, minimal effort. I look at that and I think, hey, that's a great investment.
All right. Not to be too philosophic or fall back on anything that would be regarded as ethereal, but is your conclusion here that in a given universe of people, there is someone who is rich that would fit your goal as well as someone who is poor? In other words, that if you approach it in an empirical fashion and say in a universe of 100 potential spouses, there's probably 10 who are rich who meet your criteria of love, and 10 who aren't rich, and then there's this great middle ground, that it's better to use this as a component given the fact that maybe all things are given equal.
I would agree with that. I think that even if you don't actually go out and try to marry someone who's an heiress or an heir, you should still really, I've never been married, but I imagine that the financial component is incredibly important. And as somebody who's on the before end of marriage, right, I don't think people really think about that as much. You don't want to think about that. It's distasteful to think about that. And the fact is that getting married was quite possibly the most important financial decision many of you will ever make.
One last question before we attempt to, in another video, figure out what the feedback is. Is it entirely possible that many of the people you mentioned in this article, who are very savvy, everyone from Princess Diana to Kevin Federline, did these people stumble on it, or do you think they were pointed in the direction by others to make these moves? Others who have endured hardship and recognized that they could have their sons or daughters marry anyone, but have put this preference in their minds?
I'm sure that if you get even the slightest opportunity to marry someone who's extraordinarily wealthy, you've got parents, you've got family coming in saying, what are you, an idiot? Go ahead and do it. And, as they should.
Okay. This is Jim Cramer with Cliff Mason, another edition of the Cramer Mason Chronicles.